Today is Unlock the Book Within You with Fong Chua. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Fong Chua.
Woo. Hey, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Carol, for putting this together. And thank you to your club for letting me invade your space for this hour and a half. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. So how is everybody doing tonight? Good? Excited? Ready to get some work done and get some books written and get your message out there and build some credibility? All right. So I'm not sure how much people know about me, but I'll give you a quick little kind of backstory as to who I am and where I came from and how I got to where I am today. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. Born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, taught to work hard, find a good job, and be in that job for the rest of my life. And then for those of you who knows the Alberta market, once we hit the 2008 downturn, our jobs were all kind of at stake. I was an engineer, and our company at the time went from 800 plus employees down to 125 people. And at that time, I go, you know what? We need to do something a little bit different. So therefore, my girlfriend, now wife at the time, stood up, picked up a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that started off on our real estate and business career. We hired a business coach and a real estate coach. And from there, we built a portfolio from 0 properties to about 23 properties, managing over 30 some units. And then a whole new world of business and investments and all that great stuff. So as I was so involved with real estate, in insurance, in network marketing, in gold and silver, and exam markets and all this kind of stuff, people started asking me, what exactly did I do? Because they thought I was just doing engineering. So then at that time, I used to sit down with them a good 3-4 hours at a time and kind of talk about all that other stuff that I was doing and nothing about what I was doing for a job. And then at that time, my coach goes, well, that's not very effective your time. Why don't you write your first book? So that's how I got into writing my very first book, which is an introduction to all the stuff that we do to build our financial foundation. And then now I can go, hey, read my book first. Let me know what you want to talk about. So when we meet together, we'll focus on that topic and then carry forward. Well, as some of you will experience, and I guarantee you will, once you start writing your very first book, you're going to realize you have more than 1, 2, and maybe even more than 3 books inside you. Because if you're trying to fill a book that's only 100, 125 pages long, that's actually not very long. And you have so much more materials in you and so much more content to share. And that's exactly what happened to us. In fact, within the first 2 years, we released 3 books. One on the financial foundation, one on finding cash flowing properties, and then one on team building. Later on, as a lot of you are in Toastmasters, I was doing a presentation similar to this, saying that writing books aren't that hard. It doesn't take that long. And people go, well, how fast do you think you finish one book? I'm like, well, if I really wanted to, I could probably get a book written and published within a month. And nobody believed me. So I took that as a challenge and released our 4th book within a month. And then after that, after a few more years, right now, we just released our 7th book, and our 8th book is coming out. And each book is on a different topic, a different industry, so that we could brand ourselves in different credibility areas and also speak to different areas, as different audiences as well. We also have one kid's book that we just released last year. And then our next book is about branding. So that's why I've been writing a lot of books. And if I have to say, what are some of the most important things that allow me to propel myself into a speaker, into a podcast host, into a trainer and course creator and a coach? Well, number 1 is hiring that coach to help me along. And then number 2 is getting a book written to build up my credibility and my exposure. So that's where I'm at now. Right now, I love helping people get their books out, and watching people write their books, going through that whole process and seeing their confidence rise has been one of those very fulfilling experiences for me. In fact, the last few months here during COVID, I've been challenging a lot of my clients to get their books done within 3 to 4 months. Lots of them didn't think they can, but within 3 to 4 months, they completed their books. And I've made a lot of people cry during that process, because I go, so how did it feel when you held your book for the very first time? They go, well, I teared up. Well, I'm going to take that and say, I love making people cry then. So it's one of those experiences where I shared with a fellow podcast host. She asked me, what did it feel for me? For me, it felt like I was standing on stage, just finished doing one of my performances, and everybody was giving me a standing ovation. It just felt very, very good once you have that book in your hand. So something I hope that a lot of you will experience yourself. During that period of time, I've seen a lot of people get their confidence go up. They've been able to get speaking engagements. They've been able to get interviews with different podcasts, shows and whatnot. So it's one of those things that really, really help you build your credibility and also allows you to brand yourself as well. So before I get right into the stuff, like I said, it's going to be about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to show you step by step everything that you need to know to get your books out. And basically just take notes, ask questions if you need to. I will answer them as much as I can. And during this whole process, you'll find out the ins and outs of how to get your book self-published, and also some tips and tricks as to how I maximize that content, and at the same time, get that content on page with ease. And that's why lots of my clients are able to finish their books within 3 to 4 months. Okay, so any questions before we jump into it? I'm going to take that as no. All right. Can everybody see my screen so far? I'm getting, okay, great. Oh, shoot. One moment. Like I said in my introduction, I was able to use my book to propel me to be able to speak on some stages. A few months ago, well, before the pandemic, I was able to speak in front of 4,000 people here in Edmonton. I have about 8 books out. I've been coaching. I've been helping people with real estate, book writing, speaking, and also business strategies. My podcast, if anybody wants to jump onto that, is called the Peak Potential Success Show. I've been able to interview some amazing people, celebrities, multimillionaires, and also some Olympic champions as well. And I have also a YouTube channel, Your Area TV, where you can find a few of my shows that goes up weekly, where I talk about business mindset, stuff I've learned, lessons learned from other people, and also some thoughts about how to brand yourself and market yourself as well. Something I also like to add in there is I've completed the Dopey Challenge. For those of you who don't know what Dopey Challenge is, well, it's going to Disney World and running a 5K on a Thursday, a 10K on a Friday, half marathon on a Saturday, and a full-blown marathon on a Sunday. If anybody ever wants to run a marathon, I can guarantee you this is the easiest marathon you're ever going to run, because you're going to be running in Disney World, and there's going to be 28,000 other people running with you. There's entertainment throughout. So if you ever want to test your mindset and also your willpower, great place to do it. And you're going to feel great when you get those medals around your head. Something I love doing is helping people find their passions, unlocking the potentials, and adding value as much as I can, which is why when Carol says if I wanted to do the session, I would love to, because I love adding impact and also value to as many people as I can. So why do we write books? Well, it's because we all have a message to share. And we can go to Toastmasters clubs and we can talk, we could share that message, but our reach is only so far, right? So therefore, once you're published, you're able to reach worldwide, you're able to connect with more people, you're able to build that credibility. When I ask the question, how many people here know an author? How many people here know another author who's written 2, 3, 4 books? You start listing off names like Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield and all those other people who's written more than 4 or 5 books. So if somebody like yourself is able to introduce yourself as, hey, I'm a best-selling author, and I'm also an author of 3, 4, 5 books, then people start looking at you as if, wow, you're one of those people who also is like Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield, who has lots of applications with them. It's a great way to build your brand. It allows you to people to think of you first, and also know exactly what you do so that they know you're an expert on that field. Okay? And that's why a lot of people write books. That's why a lot of celebrities write books. A lot of business owners write books, so that they can get that credibility out there for people to notice them. Now, one thing we're gonna kind of keep in mind here is the book itself is purely for credibility, and you're not looking for the book to make you rich. However, if you can sell lots and lots of books and have that as another stream of income, great. You just need to push it, you need to promote it, you need to market it. But at the end, what the main purpose here is that you're able to have that book in your hand, give it away, or use it as a credibility tool to kind of showcase your talents and your skill set and get people to notice you. There's a good chance that most people who receive your book or even buy your book aren't even going to read it. Okay? But that's okay, because what I'd rather them do is I'd rather them have the book and go, you know what? I want this person to coach me instead. I want this person to work with me instead. And therefore, I could actually charge more as a coach than just having somebody read my book, right? So I also look at the book as a loss leader as well. So like I said, it builds the credibility, puts you as the expert, makes you stand out. Now, who here has a stack of business cards on their desk, in their drawer, or somewhere? Okay, I see some laughs. I see some thumbs up. Now, how many of you remember all the people that gave you those cards? Do you remember where you got that card from? Or have you just thrown out a whole stack of cards without even looking at it, right? Now, what if somebody came up to you and go, oh, hi, I really want to connect with you. Here's a copy of my book. Let's keep in touch. They'll also sign it for you. I have 3, 4, or 5 books from people I've met at networking events that I haven't thrown out, and I know exactly the same place as to where I met them and what they do. Every time I go through my bookshelf, I see, oh, I remember that person. Maybe I should contact that person and just keep in touch with them again, right? So having that book as a giveaway allows you to kind of keep yourself in that person's mind's eye for a longer period of time instead of just that business card. At cost, if you're looking at per book, you're looking at maybe $4 or $5 Canadian per book. Now, how many business cards have you thrown away? Over hundreds, probably. So the book, if it's not thrown away, it's most likely going to be given to somebody else so that somebody else can read it. So you'll be remembered more. It's allowed me to get on interviews, been speaking on stages. Some of my clients on this page here has gotten asked to speak at Writer Symposium. Vaughn here, I think, is recently being asked to speak on podcasts and interviews. I have another person who was asked to speak virtually in Ghana and France. One of my more recent clients was asked by a radio station in Toronto, and she lives in Calgary, to speak on the subject matter that she was writing on. So it gets yourself really out there for people to know, as long as you talk about your book, as long as you talk about the progress throughout social media to let people to know about it. So one thing, there's 3 main comments that people usually give me when I ask them or challenge them to write a book. Number 1 is, who am I to write a book? Number 2 is, that person over there isn't going to be reading my book, so why should I write a book? And the last one is, writing a book is too hard and takes too much time. Well, first of all, it doesn't take that much time. It could take anywhere between, like I said, a month if you're really, really committed, to 3 to 4 months if you are following a direct plan as to how to get that out. Most of my clients finish it within 3 to 4 months. And if you can speak, which I know all of you can speak because you're in Toastmasters, then it's absolutely not a problem. You could get a book done within 3 to 4 months for sure. The other thing is, that person over there is not going to read my book. Why should I write one? Well, that's okay. Because as speakers, do you expect everybody in your audience to care about what you're talking about? Probably not. You're not going to win everybody, but you focus on the people who's actually paying attention to when you speak. So that book is written for the people that wants to hear your voice, wants to see what you want to talk about. And finally, who am I? Well, the thing is, I may or may not be able to reach your audience, your fan base, your clientele. And therefore, every single moment that you're not writing your book or spreading your message is every single moment that you're depriving your fan base, your clientele, your fans from your message and your voice. The thing is, over the last 100 years, there hasn't been anything new that's been written, but your voice hasn't been heard, right? So that statement right there has changed my world, because it was this main statement that my coach told me that allowed me to have the confidence and also the self-esteem to write my very first book. And sure enough, there's lots of people who after reading my first book goes, oh, I needed this information. So you never know who you're able to impact, and you never know who's going to be reaching out to read your book. I have a client who I challenged you. I said, you need to be able to reach out to 100 to 200 people to get your books and all that kind of stuff, and at least send out that message. And they go, I don't know 200 people. I'm like, dig deep. You never know. He posted a cutout or a newsletter on a bulletin board at his apartment. And people from his apartment complex who he didn't even know was sending him messages saying, thank you so much for this book because it's helped me out a lot. So you really don't know who you're going to be able to reach or who you're able to add value to. So when it comes to book writing, these are the 15 things I'm going to be talking about today, kind of in brief. You have your title, your subtitle. You have the length of your book. How do you create an outline within seconds? How do you complete your book in record time? How do you avoid writer's block? Then comes the cover, the editing, and the website, all of which could be outsourced if you want. You have the testimonials and forewords, which will allow you to build credibility for you and also your book itself. Bonuses that you could give away in your book to create lead generation so that people will go to your website or contact you. How do you go through a bestseller strategy? Then the printing and proofing, then your official launch, then a strategy as to how you can actually get paid for your book before even writing a word. How do you mix in all your social media content? How do you create lead generation? And then at the end, how do you repurpose your content so you could be intentional and congruent with everything? I love being able to save time and also maximizing my content without creating new stuff all the time. All right, so to go on to this next part, I'm gonna ask for a person to follow through. Okay, who here, just show of hands, who here aspires to have their own business or already has their own business? All right. Okay, how about Brittany? I'm gonna use you as an example throughout this whole session then. So if you could unmute yourself.
Okay.
All right. So the very first thing with regards to your book is, what do you want to be known as the expert in, and what do you want to brand yourself in? Okay. So you said you have a business. What would that business be? And if you were to write a book, what expertise do you want to showcase?
So I would say it'd be more of an aspiring business. I don't actually have one as of yet. And it would be virtual assistant and be branding and Pinterest marketing.
Branding and Pinterest. So before you said branding, what was you said, what was the first thing that you said?
Virtual assistant.
Virtual assistant. So you would be, your business will be helping people and other business owners be able to achieve more in less time by outsourcing their work to somebody else and organizing that and structuring that whole strategy, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so the next step to this would be finding that right title, that right subtitle, and then your perfect length of the book. Now, when it comes to book writing, especially this type of book, you're looking at anywhere between 75 pages to 150 pages. Anything less than 75 pages would look too thin. So that book I wrote within a month, that was 75 pages. Anything more than 150 pages would look like a daunting task if you gave that book to somebody and go, hey, read this. Then they look at the thickness and go, ooh, that's so thick, I don't want to read it, right? So within 75 to 150, most of mine are about 125, 130 or so, all right? Now, when it comes to your title, you want something that's right-brained and very attention-grabbing, anywhere between 2 to 6 words, and flows easily when you say it, all right? So for instance, my entire book series is called Make More, Work Less. Something I can repeat all the time when I'm doing videos, when I'm on stages. I got people who, I got one of my clients whose book is called Say It Loud, Say It Proud. Easy to say, a good tagline for people to remember. So for your book, Brittany, with regards to virtual assistant and branding and Pinterest marketing, something in the realm of, it could even be set it and forget it. I know that's been used for another infomercial, but something close to that. Or something like, work done while you sleep, right? Yeah, so something that catches people's attention and that's kind of right brain, that speaks to their emotions, and then kind of makes them go, okay, what else is this book about? So then your subtitle is a very left brain description of what your book is going to show them or tell them what to do. So let's say your subtitle is something like the step-by-step process of how to create a system of virtual assistants and branding strategies to increase your profits. Or the 10 ways of setting up the best virtual system for you. So if we focus purely on the virtual assistant aspect, would that be a book that would work for you?
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm sure there's a lot of content there that you could probably showcase to go, okay, this is how you interview people, this is how you find the right people, this is how you give directions, this is how you set up a team virtually and all that kind of stuff, right? So there should be enough information there for just virtual assistant. Okay, so if we were to really sit down and work on your title, your subtitle, we might spend about an hour, right? Within 2-3 minutes, we kind of have a rough title, a rough subtitle, and we know what she wants to be an expert in. We also know what she wants to be branded in. So we're going to be looking at an hour or so, maybe give and take throughout the entire process. You might change your title here and there, but you have a good kind of path as to what your title is going to be. So the next thing is your book outline. So this is usually the guide as to what I give my clients. You want to have a copyright page, about the author page, dedication, acknowledgements, table of contents, a foreword, an introduction, main content, your final thoughts, additional content, and then maybe some recommended reading. Okay. Now, when it comes to the introduction is basically a 2 to 3 page. And when I talk about pages, I'm talking about a book this size and a page this big, okay? Which is half of a 11 by 8.5 by 11 page, okay? So for your introduction, that is basically around 2 to 3 pages of the story in which you went through that caused you to go, you know what, I need to write this book. Okay, so when people are reading your introduction, they understand why you decided to write this book and why you want to share this information. And then also what they're going to learn from your book. Okay, your about the author would be 2 to 3 pages about your story. The story of where you were to how you became the expert in virtual assistants or the business that you currently do. Okay, so that's the difference between the author and also the introduction. Okay, I'm going to go further into the forward and main content. Acknowledgements, very self-explanatory. Who do you want to thank that went through the process of your book? Usually it's the person who designed your cover, your editing, your proofreading, people who supported you along the way and all that kind of stuff. Dedication, who do you want to dedicate your book to? But pretty straightforward there. So the main content. So this is the bulk of your book. What you want to do is come up with 10 topics about your main message. Okay, so in Brittany's case, if I ask you, can you break up the whole virtual assistants into 10 parts?
Yes, I'd have to do some thinking to actually get up to 10.
Right, for sure. So if I was come to you and go, you know what, I really need to find a way to maximize my time and get some help. I'm overwhelmed with work. I'm overwhelmed with all these other things. How do you help me? Okay, what will be the first step that you go through?
Determine what their goals and objectives are.
Okay, so a business's goals and their objectives. Okay, once you have that, what's your next step?
What they need to do to achieve their goals and objectives.
So this is where you start explaining different strategies as to what they can apply. Okay. Okay, then what? As of right now, I don't know anything about virtual assistants, so you can tell me anything.
Well, virtual assistants help employers do jobs and outsource so they don't have to do them themselves. Like basically, you're hiring an assistant outside of your job. So I guess you could also talk about in that the benefits of having a virtual assistant, what they can do for you, as well as how it can help you scale your business more because you're outsourcing work and don't have to do it yourself.
Okay, so scale your business. You could have better competition against your competition.
Yeah.
I'll jot a few other things down. How to find, how to manage, how to maximize that relationship as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I kind of jotted down 9 things here, in no real specific order. However, the very first one would probably be the goals and your mindset, right? Understanding how virtual assistance works, or understanding how outsourcing works, or understanding how advantageous having an assistant would be virtually. Okay, so if I ask you, and let's say you're in your Toastmasters a meeting, to give me a speech between 10 to 12 minutes on just the goal setting for a business, would you be able to do that?
With preparation, yes.
Okay, how long of a preparation would you need to actually put that speech together?
Something like that, 30 minutes to an hour.
Woo, 30 minutes to an hour. You all hear that, right? So if you ever need a speech last minute, she could get one prepared in 30 minutes to an hour. All right, so if we go through that whole strategy for each one of the topics, let's say if you have to do a 10 to 15 minute speech on benefits, 10 to 15 minute speech on how it could scale your business, 10 to 15 minute speech on how you're able to compete with other competition. Would you be able to do that, assuming that you have time to prepare?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why if you read this page, I have 10 to 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes for each topic. Okay, because that's going to be the roughly the amount of content you prepare for 10 to 15 minutes is how many words and how many pages you need for your book. We're looking at 10 chapter book, 10 pages on average each. And that usually sums up to a speech of 12 to 15 minutes. So if you can actually do that in 30 minutes to an hour, that means you should be able to write out these chapters with no problem. Okay, you just have to break them down. Now, for those of you who go, you know what, I can't think that fast, I need to be able to come up with more bullet points and all that, that's fine. If I ask Brittany, when it comes to outsourcing, can you break that down into, let's say, 5 points?
So you could outsource it in the type of, like, what genre? Are you doing it for podcasting? Are you doing it for design?
Mm-hmm.
So the genre that you're looking for, your budget, as well as your direction on where you're wanting to go with your business. Yep. And how it'll help you. I'm starting to run out of ideas.
Okay, so when it comes to the outsourcing part, if I asked her if she was able to break it down to 5 points, with time, she could probably break it down into 5 points. No different than if I was to ask you to do a speech to break down into 3 body paragraphs or 5 body paragraphs. And each paragraph, you're going to be talking about maybe 2 to 3 minutes. If that was the case, that means 5 points for your chapter is about 10 minutes. Plus the intro, plus the conclusion, you have your 12 to 15-minute speech for your chapter already. All right. Some things that you might want to consider is you have a highlights page. So at the end of your chapter, you might go, here are the top 5 highlights about what I talked about. Here's a quote that would sum everything up, a summary page, whatever it is. It could be something that people can go back to and go, okay, yeah, that just reinforced what I just read. Okay. So if we sat down and I broke it all down for you, you could probably have your outline within an hour. A really good solid outline. Yes, there might be some tweaks here and there, but you could have that done within an hour. Next thing is people are always talking about having writer's block and sitting down looking at a blank page. Okay, so right now the only thing that we want to do is get as many words as you can onto your page, onto your screen, whatever it is. Don't worry about editing. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about any of that stuff. You just want to get the words on page. So how do we avoid writer's block? Well, how often do you have speaker's block? Okay, everybody here has done table topics. You're being told to try and last a minute and a half to 2 minutes. No matter how awkward you are during that period of time, you will fight through and be able to speak within those minute and a half. So we do not have speaker's block. We'll be able to work our ways through. So that's how I usually get people to go through their writer's block. Imagine somebody else sitting across from you asking you all these questions. Every time I'm stuck at a certain point I want to get across, I imagine that exactly that person sitting across from me asking that exact question, and I'm just going to answer it as I type. So if somebody goes, well, how does outsourcing help my time? If you could answer that within 2 minutes and treat it like a table topic, I'm sure you can write out half a page if need be. Then you have something to work with when it goes back to the editing or reformatting and all that kind of stuff. You have words on page. Now, the reason why I keep on going back to the 15 minutes or 10 minutes of speech is because on average, we speak 125 words per minute. So if you can hit 10 minutes to 15 minutes, you're looking at anywhere between 12,000 to 1,200 to 1,800 words, okay, which will be on average 10 pages. So if you're able to come up with your speech in 30 minutes to an hour, let's say an hour, and it takes you, let's say, another half an hour to deliver that speech, okay, you're looking at an hour and a half. I will record that speech, and then now sending that speech to a transcription service, and you could go to otter.ai, OTTER.ai, and there's a free trial service there, or you pay monthly. If you really wanted to, you could pre-record all your videos, pay for 1 month of service, get all your transcriptions done, and then stop paying. But what you're going to get is you get your entire 10 to 15 minute speech transcribed into one big chunk of words, and you could just copy that, put it into your book, and then now it's your turn to kind of mold it. So you've already filled pages. Okay, so within an hour and a half, let's go 2 hours per chapter. Within 20 hours, you would have your book draft done already. For people who's wondering, that book that I finished within a month was basically a speech I did for Toastmasters under the old traditional route, which is the, what do you call it, the professional speaker series. There's one assignment or one project there that required me to do a 25-minute presentation. I basically did that presentation, got it transcribed, and then molded it. So within a week or so, I had my book draft completed. Okay, something to consider, bonuses. This is mainly to draw some leads and get people to go to your website. So can you think of 3 to 4 free bonuses, free giveaways that you can give away, downloadable content, or something that you can get people to go to your website to download? So what I would do is at the end of chapter 3, I would say something like, well, thank you very much for getting all the way up to the end of this chapter. As a bonus to you, I've included a free template to assess your business's goals. Or here's a checklist of all the items that you want to look for when you're hiring your new virtual assistant. Go to my website at here, leave your, and then at that point, they'll put down their information, their email, and then they could download your checklist or your template. But now you've captured a lead. Okay. At the end, you might give a free report, or you might have an interview with somebody else that's exclusive for people who have bought your book. Or you could give away a free 30-minute coaching session or something like that. Okay. So again, if you were to sit down and start writing, okay, for myself, it takes me about 4 hours of nonstop writing, sitting down focused to finish one chapter. So that's about 40 hours. With Brittany here, if it takes her about 2 hours to get the video done, okay, it takes me about 2 hours to take a video transcription and mold it into a readable format. Okay, so it depends on which strategy you use. Of course, if you were to send, you could also send your transcriptions and your videos to a ghostwriter. And a ghostwriter can go through all your stuff and they'll just write the whole book for you. Okay, so there's other strategies with that. A ghostwriter would cost you anywhere between $1,000 to $2,500. Okay, to ghostwrite your book. It'll be in your voice because they'll use your transcriptions and they'll also be watching your videos as well. Okay, so about 6 weeks. So on average, you're looking at finishing, let's say 2 chapters a week, rough draft. So if you start today, by the end of August, you could have your draft completed, ready for your own self-editing. Okay, so the next thing is editing. You have all your words in there. You're ready for going through your self-editing phase. Usually I spend about a week to go through it myself to make sure I'm happy with it. Again, I'm looking at on average anywhere between 7 to 10 hours a week, right? That gets me the 2 chapters a week. If I'm still maintaining that rate, that means I'm looking at 7 hours to 10 hours of self-editing. By the end of that week, I should be ready to send that draft to my editor, okay? An editor will take anywhere between usually 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, the editor I use takes about 2 weeks. I believe she goes to 15 pages an hour, and she charges around $25 to $30 an hour. So you're looking at a low of $300 for a person to edit your book for 1 round. Okay, usually I don't require anybody else to go through a 2nd or 3rd round. I'm pretty happy with 1 round of editing, and then I'll go through a 2nd or 3rd round of editing myself, or I give it to my wife and have her read it. You want to tell your editor to focus on grammar and flow and to maintain your voice. You don't want them to restructure it. You don't want them to rearrange stuff because that's your content. You have a certain way of having your content out there, and you should be the person who knows exactly how it should be presented to get your point across best. Okay, so for editing, it could be free. If you have friends who are good at editing, you might be able to barter or trade services with them. Upworks, yeah, there's online services like Odesk and Elance, which is outsourcing. You can find those people to do it there too. But keep in mind, if it's cheap, then you'll probably get a poor quality editing from especially from outsourcing, right? Or you could talk to Brittany and ask her how to find the best outsource. So like I said, anywhere between $300 to $1,000, depending on how many rounds you go through. Next thing is the cover. Again, this should take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. What you want is, so there's a sample cover. You want to have it designed the front, the spine, and also the back cover. You have your title, your subtitle. You might want to have a asterisk or some kind of starburst that shows that, hey, you have free content in this book. And then also your name, and then the person who does your forward. The higher the credibility of your forward, the better. Okay, it just gives you more credibility as the author of the book and also for your book itself. Then you want your spine. The spine, there's a calculation as to how thick your spine is going to be, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And then on your back cover, you would like to have a 2 to 3 sentence kind of promotion as to what your book is about to draw their attention. Anywhere between 2 to 6 different testimonials that you can get from other people who's read your book already. Okay, and we'll jump into that. And then also about the author. This is a quick kind of 1 paragraph short version about who you are and what you do. Then your company logo and any websites or links that you want to put in the back there as well. One thing I do suggest is to price your book at least at $25 or higher. Okay, that would allow you to sell your book to people who meet you in person for maybe $20 because it's easy to pull $20 out of pocket. Then they don't have to search for a second bill. Or you can go, hey, if you buy the book directly from me, I could give you a $5 discount. Just come to me, don't buy it on Amazon. Plus, I could sign it for you, right? But I would price it at 25, okay, at a minimum. I sometimes price mine at 40, 45, so that when I'm giving this book physically for free, they'll look at the price, they go, wow, you're giving me something of value of 45 and above. That's something that I'm going to appreciate, okay? So that's the whole pricing thing. Don't undervalue the content that you have in your book. You could always change the pricing of your book online, but what's stamped on the cover stays. I also would not put US or Canadian dollars, because then if you're in US, it's US dollars. When you're Canadian, it's Canadian dollars. You could always change, okay? Again, it could be free, it could be outsourced, bartered, whoever you want to get to do your covers. I'm very lucky. My brother's a graphic artist. He does all my covers. So I would not pay anything more than $500 a cover. But if you hire people who are doing this for professionally, they might charge you up to thousands. But anywhere between $300 to $500, I think is fair. Right? Now, if you have a friend who is an artist or who knows a thing or two about Photoshop and all that great stuff in Adobe, then you might want to go, hey, let me advertise you on the back of my book so that other people who reads the book can come to you for your services and kind of trade services that way. Now, this is being done while your editor's reading your draft. So you want to be able to send out your draft copy to your editor, and then you also engage with your artist to start doing your cover. So by 2 to 3 weeks later, those two things are finished and you can put it all together. So your time, I don't know, 10 hours, maybe less, for you to come up with a visual as to what you want the cover to look like, to set your editing up or to set your cover designer up and all that kind of stuff might take you 10 hours. That period of time, like I said, depending on how much editing you need, how much time the cover is done, 2 to maybe 4 weeks. Next thing is testimonials and forwards. Like I said, the higher the credibility that you can get, the better. Now, I usually ask people to start thinking about who do you want to write the forward to your book and who do you want to write the testimonials to your book at the very beginning of the stage. And the reason why is you may have to start rebuilding or actually start building that relationship with those people so that you're not waiting till last minute and go, oh, hey, by the way, nice to meet you. Would you like to do a forward for me? Okay. So depending on who that person is, you might have to kind of lead yourself up to that person to get the forward done. So what I would do is I would pre-write that forward for them. Okay. This would be roughly 2 to 3 pages. And you would pre-write that forward from their point of view so that all they have to do is review it, modify as they see fit, and then put their name at the bottom. That saves them time and it saves them effort to actually come up with something to write. If they see you already writing it out and have the main points there, they can use that as a guide. All right. So when it comes to that, how I usually write these is it sounds like a story. So for instance, if I was to be the forward for Brittany's book, okay, it'll be written somewhat like this. Well, when I first met Brittany, she was part of this great group of people on a webinar. She really stuck out because she was very engaged and she was always wanting to add value and impact as many people as she wanted. Once I found out that she was writing a book on virtual assistants and how virtual assistants is able to propel your business to the next level and help you scale your business, and she then asked me if I wanted to write a forward, I said when and where. I couldn't wait. But after that, once I saw the actual content of her book, I realized this is a book that everybody has to get, especially if they're in business, because they never know how much more they can actually get out of their business by scaling it and by getting a virtual assistant. Throughout this book, you're going to get X, Y, Z, and it's going to be a book that you're going to go back time and time again because it's a great resource for you throughout the entire time of your business. That's why you should read this book. That's why you should reach out to Brittany. Okay, so then it's kind of a story as to how I met the person, why this person stuck out, what kind of book they're writing, why this book would affect other people, and why for a fact that these people need to get your book. So you will pre-write that entire story in their words and go, would you like to put your name on this? Okay, now why do I go, you might not need to start building that relationship or rebuilding that relationship. So a year ago, I met somebody who was a keynote speaker for an event in LA. And this guy's a multimillionaire. He's a real estate guru. He's a 7-time international bestseller. And he rebuilds luxury homes and sells to multimillionaires. Okay. He was a very, very interesting and also very knowledgeable speaker. And the first thing I did was I connected to him on Facebook. Then every time he started posting stuff about his upcoming book, I made sure that I made a comment. I made sure that I engaged. I made sure I asked questions. And every time that he went on his tour, or he said something that's inspirational, or he said something that was motivating, I would always comment on that stuff to a point where he started commenting back. So now I built rapport. After a period of time, I realized that he was going to be pre-selling his book. I asked, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? We could promote your book and we could also spread your message. And he said yes. So then now I'm adding value to him by promoting his book. Then a few months later, he was actually launching his book. I reposted all the stuff that we talked about. I reposted the podcast and reposted his link to get his book. That also helped for a charity. He noticed that. And he said, thank you, and all that kind of stuff. And he also gave me a few good compliments as well. Then I go, hey, I would love for you to write a foreword to my book. And he didn't even hesitate. So, but that took a period of about 9 months to a year to build that relationship. So depending who you're working with or who you want, you might want to keep that in mind and start building those relationships now. Okay. One other thing I would also send out to this person is a one-page summary of your book. Okay, so you're sending your forward person a pre-written forward, your draft, and a one-page summary of your book, so that if they don't want to read the entire thing, they can read a one-page summary. Okay, I usually give them about 2 to 3 weeks to give me back a reply, if they do want to read the entire book, which coincides with the cover design and also the editing. Okay, so everything's supposed to finish at the same time. Next thing is the testimonials. Same concept. If you're able to find 3, 4, 5 different people who have high credibilities, great titles underneath their names, and also potentially international, then even better. That means if you have somebody who's from India who read your book, somebody from Australia that gave you a testimonial, somebody from the United States, it already looks like your book's already been around the world. Okay. Again, I would pre-write 6 to 10 different testimonials and ask them to pick one that they like and put their name in it. Okay, again, I'm sending them the draft, a one-page summary of the book, and a whole bunch of testimonials for them to choose from, or use it as a guide as they see fit. Okay, the more you ask, the better. For instance, if you have 6 or 10 people that you've asked, and only 5 of them sent you a response, and then let's say out of those 5, you only like 3 of them, then you have some choices, right? So again, within those 4 weeks, you want to have the testimonials, the forward, the editing, and also your, your cover done. The next thing is your website. This is optional. I don't think it's completely necessary. However, again, it gives you credibility, because the first thing people usually search for is the name of your book and see what they can find online. And if you have yourbooktitle.com, that just gives you some more credibility there. So what you want on your one-page, this is a one-page landing page, okay? So you don't need to be too complex. You just want something online so that people can find it, okay? You want the title of your book, an image, some highlights as to what your book can teach them, and then a buy now. And this is before they start scrolling, which is above the fold, okay? Before they start scrolling. Then the next thing is the credibilities that you have. Either some media logos that you have, some promotional videos that you've done, and then also any photos that you have that builds your credibility and as to why people should get to know you or why people should buy your book. The last segment would be about the authors, a photo, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and Brittany, you already got your photos done, so you're already on your way. For a one-page landing page, you're looking at somewhere between $100 to $200. Anything more than that would be way too much. You could probably find somebody else to do it. This is also the page where you can start having your like a button for people to click on where you could download your bonus content if you don't have your main website yet. Okay. That usually, like I said, if you do this at the same time as all that other stuff, within 2 to 3 weeks, you should have this done as well. Okay, so after the 4 weeks, your draft is done, your editing's done, your cover's done, your testimonials and forwards, you got all that stuff back. Okay, now you're ready to go through one more edit of yourself, okay, to make sure this is what you're happy with. After that, you convert your file into a readable file for an ebook upload. If you go to kdp.com, this is the Amazon self-publishing platform. It's called kindledirectpublishing.com. Okay, so this is for Amazon. It's free. So once you convert your book into an ebook format, you can upload it, and then within hours, your book's gonna be live on Amazon that people can actually buy. Okay, there has been services where they take your Word document to convert it into a readable format for ebook. I've seen anywhere between $100 to $200 US. I wouldn't pay for it. It takes me about half an hour to get that done. So it's not hard. You just have to do some trial and error, relaunch the preview. Okay, that doesn't look right. I'll tweak it a little bit. Within half an hour, you should be able to have it done. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect, because the strategy here is that you're using your ebook as a free giveaway or to sell it cheap to try and get bestseller status on it. So if that's the case, then it really doesn't need to be 100% perfect, because it's a free download in the end. That's why I wouldn't pay $100, $200 for it. I would just do it myself, and you'll be able to get it into a readable format that people won't complain about. Then there's the bestseller campaign. Okay, so how Amazon works is that if you can sell a massive amount of units of your ebook within a short period of time, between, let's say, within a 2-hour time slot, and they see a massive bunch of sales in that period of time, then there's a good chance that you'll get bestseller in that category. So what I would do is find a category, a niche for your book that's as niche as you can. Okay, the smaller the category, the better. So don't pick something like business general. because if you go business general, then you're competing with a whole bunch of other books within business general. I would pick business virtual assistant, and that would be so niche that you're trying to compete only with the other people who is launching their book within the same day, the same time slot as you in that category. Okay, so in Amazon, it allows you to pick up to, I think it was 2 categories. Okay, so you have a little bit more chances to get bestseller. What I would do is pick a day that you believe that most of your fans, most of your followers, your family and friends will be available to buy your book for $1. I have found that on Thursdays between 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock is probably the best prime period of doing that, because people are either going out to lunch or coming back for lunch, whatever it is, they're willing to jump on their phones for a few seconds to buy your book. Okay. If I was to launch it at 11 o'clock on Thursday, that means the week before on Thursday, I will make an announcement on social media saying, hey, everybody, I have a big announcement. Starting tomorrow on Friday, I'm going to have a mini video series on virtual assistants and how it's going to help your business grow. Then on Friday, I'm going to post a 5-minute video, maybe on one of the topics that's in my book, talking about outsourcing. Then on Monday, I post another, and Tuesday, Wednesday. And then after that, I'm priming my people who's watching my social media that every Thursday, that every day at 11 o'clock, they're going to watch this video. So then on Thursday at 11 o'clock, I'm going to launch my ebook, and it's going to be for $1. Okay. After 2 hours, I'm going to announce saying, hey, I got so many people interested in my book. I'm going to extend the time period for another half hour. You still have time, get my book now. Then at 1:30, I will bump my price back up. Okay. If you're able to sell anywhere between 75 to 125 units within that two-hour time slot, there's a very good chance you will get bestseller status. Okay. Every single one of my clients has gotten bestsellers either in one of their categories or bestseller in new releases. Once you get that sticker that you see on the bottom left there, you get a screenshot and you could call yourself a bestseller for life. Okay. Because you've changed your price at 1:30, keep checking it. There's a good chance that your price will change before your bestseller status goes away. So now it looks like you're a bestseller selling your ebook for $12.91. Okay, so get those screenshots. What else could I? Oh, because Amazon right now they change their algorithms all the time. My recommendation is you change your price 2-3 days before your launch. Just don't tell anybody about it so that they don't go buy your book earlier. I would keep track of 200 names that you've actually asked to buy your book. Okay, and then on Wednesday night and Thursday morning, you're going to be mass messaging all these people, emailing them, talking to them, saying, hey, my book's going to come out at this time. Buy my book for $1. Here's my link. Okay. The people who are your closest friends and family will most likely not follow your directions. So just keep that in mind. If you ask 200, there's a good chance that 100 of them will follow through and follow your directions. Time and time again, I've had people go, oh, look, 9 o'clock, it's already $1. I bought it already. Is that okay? Well, it's too late because they can only buy one per Amazon account. Okay, so keep that in mind. So this is going to be about a week. You'll probably spend about 5 hours putting those videos together, uploading your content, all that kind of stuff, and getting ready for your book launch. If you're doing it on the Thursday at 11 to 1 o'clock, I would highly, highly recommend that you keep your morning free because you're not going to be able to focus on anything else but that book launch. Okay, so if you're at work, then either take that half day off or you do your launch on Saturday. Once you get your bestseller, basically you can change your cover with a bestseller logo on it, and then now it's ready for print. Okay, you upload your paper copy onto kdp.com again. Amazon would actually give you a barcode and ISBN for free. Okay, so it would automatically be on there. If you want to get your own, you just need to find the Canadian government link, and they would actually send you a free ISBN within 10 days. Okay. The only thing is with the Amazon free one, you can only sell your book on the Amazon platform. Okay. So you won't see your book advertised on other distribution sites. However, if you choose to, if you want more distribution, you could go to ingramspark.com, ingramspark.com, and I believe they charge you $50. Okay, there you need to get your own ISBN. So I have some clients that actually did their launch on both the KDP platform and the Ingram Spark platform to maximize the distribution. However, if you're not promoting it, if you're not marketing it, if you're not talking about it, nobody's going to know about it, no matter how many distribution platforms there are. Okay, so you can maximize it, but you still need to talk about it. In order for you to get a proof copy on the KDP platform, there is an option for you to order your proof copy, but because it's printed in the States, then it takes some 2 to 3 weeks to get to you for you to get a proof copy. One way to kind of avoid that is to actually publish your book at the lowest price that you can publish it at, buy it yourself, and it will get printed in a Canadian company and sent to you within 3 days. Okay. After that, you can review it, change it if you like. There's some things you can't change, but you could probably change like a spelling error or some minor typos and stuff like that. But you can still make changes, and then you could then officially launch it once all those changes are done. When you're ordering your author copies, when you're ready to get a whole bulk order, that will unfortunately be printed in the States and shipped to you, and that would take anywhere between 4 to 5 weeks. Okay, at cost, you're looking about $4 to $5 per book, and that includes shipping. And you'll get a box like that, and that is one of the most wonderful feelings you're going to get. At least it was for me. So like I said, that takes about 5 weeks. All right, some other quick credibility boosters. You could do a press release about your book. I know some press release writers who charge you about $200 to write a press release. You could send out that press release and then see if other media is going to pick it up. Now you can have those logos on your website and in all your promotional content. You could tie it to a charity. If you want to do a charity event, link it to a charity event and then do a book launch at the same time. One of my clients did that and raised, like, I think it was about $2,000 to $3,000 for their charity, and used it as their book launch, and also got some press releases written because it's a charity function as well. You could bring in speakers, you could do a book signing, you could do all that kind of stuff. So for a Toastmasters club, you might want to go, hey, why don't each one of our members write one chapter, put it together as a book released by this Toastmasters club, link it to a charity event, and then boost up more excitement for that as a membership drive as well, right? How do you get your book paid for before writing a word? Well, you could sell advertising space in the back of your book. So if you have somebody who is, for instance, in the virtual assistant area and your graphic artist would pay, let's say they're willing to pay $500 for half a page of your book to put their advertising on there, great. I have some clients that charge $1,000 for a page to put advertising on. After 2 or 3 ads, their book's already paid for, okay, before they even start writing. Or you can start pre-selling your book before your book is even written, and it's a great motivator to get your book done. So those are other ways. You can also find sponsors as well. All right, so for somebody who is in business, you would understand the importance of social media and generating more leads, getting more exposure, and all that kind of stuff. This is what I love doing and helping my clients with. That is maximizing your content and being intentional congruent. When I asked Brittany how long it takes her to do those videos, she says about 2 hours to do one video. 20 hours, she'll have 20 videos. 20 20 hours, she'll have 10 videos, which means she has content for her YouTube channel. Each week, she'll announce, hey, I got a new episode of my show going up on Monday on YouTube. Then you upload one episode. Well, you can take that episode, now extract just the audio and upload it to Spotify. Now you have a podcast. Okay, you've already taken that stuff and got a transcription, and you've already molded for a chapter, which means you have your one chapter could become your live blog or your written blog weekly that goes up to your website or your LinkedIn articles. Okay, so right away with that one thing that you're doing, you already have YouTube content, podcast content, blog content, LinkedIn post content, and with every single episode, if you cut 2 or 3 minutes, 2-minute clips of your video and use it as promotional links towards your new episode, that means you have 2 to 3 different posts per week on your social media. After that's all done, you already have an ebook done as well, which means if your website says, hey, if you want a free copy of my ebook, put down your content, that's another lead generation. Okay. Now, what I would also do is after those 10 episodes are done on your YouTube and your Spotify and your podcast and all that kind of stuff, now you've already built some traction with audience members. Well, you could swap that into an interview podcast and just post up those videos when you're interviewing people like I do on Zoom. Okay? And you just do one a week. Really not hard. If you have Zoom, if everybody has a camera, just click record and you can have all that content, which potentially could become your next book with all the content that you're getting from all your interviews. Okay. All right. So that kind of is the end part of all this stuff. So if you're looking at the title, subtitle, and your outline, like I said, about 2 hours, getting your content written, not worrying about editing, 40 hours, anywhere between 6 weeks. Editing, cover, website, testimonials, and forward, 4 weeks. Getting your bonuses done, and then also your bestseller strategies, that's about a week. Waiting for your book to come in print form, that's about 5 weeks, which means within 16 weeks, you should have your book in hand in less than 60 hours. Okay, everybody here has done at least 10 speeches, which means you have already enough content for a book. Any questions?
That was very interesting. I jotted down a few ideas.
I've got enough content. It's kind of freaking me out.
So one thing I did was when I was writing my first book, I was struggling with content, and it was also my coach that goes, so what have you actually been talking about in Toastmasters? I'm like, well, mindset, real estate, business. What kind of book do you want to write? Mindset, real estate, business. And sure enough, I went back and found all my old speeches, and I put them all together for my first book.
So in a book like this, where you only have, I don't know, 75 to 150 pages, would you use any form of pictures or graphics or graphs or anything?
Yeah, I would. Just keep in mind that if you're doing graphics and illustrations, that those are your images. So recreate them if you need to, or you have to get the right copyright or the great credit to the people who created. I would just create my own.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Wow. Yes, Carol.
Is there a way that people can contact you if they're interested in your coaching?
Yeah, so I'll get to that very soon here. I'll just take care of whatever questions anybody have, or any kind of feedback or any kind of thoughts that they have with regards to book writing.
Well, hi, my name's Erin.
Hello.
And hi. I most definitely had so many ideas while you were talking, but my idea is not a product. So, and it's not a virtual assistant. Like that was a great example, but I guess I didn't correlate for myself. So let's say there's no product for them to sell. It's just a story of someone's life and what makes them happy. How does that turn into, like, why would people want to watch that?
So what's the point of you writing this book?
I have no book. I mean, I don't know. I was just having ideas. What is the point? I guess that was your first step one.
So it sounds like it's going to be stories that would be inspirational, be motivating. It will get people to achieve goals and their dreams and all that kind of stuff. So it could be a book that just inspires people to take action, to do different things with their life and whatnot, right? So
Yeah.
if I don't know what your end goal is, but if I was to write a book on different stories or inspirational stories that I've heard or that I experienced or that I've found from my interviews and whatnot, then I can position that as here's some inspirational case studies and stories that would help you elevate your goals and dreams. And then that will position myself as a go-to mindset coach or a motivational coach or something like that.
Okay. Because I guess I didn't ever think it would end up that my product would be me coaching someone. So I guess that was bigger than what I thought this was.
Right? It could even eventually, let's say if your book is on motivational stories and whatnot, right? That could then launch into a weekly or a monthly meetup group where people come in and share their stories. So you don't have to actually have a selling product if you didn't want to. You could just have a mastermind of all these people sharing their stories and supporting each other. And you start building community there.
I had that as an idea as you were talking, so that's cool.
Erin, as you and also Hong, as you think, look at Jack Canfield's books. They weren't selling products or particular mindsets or anything. I mean, he was telling inspirational stories and he's made many $million out of it. And I don't think that he necessarily started it in
he
that
does have a coaching
mode.
Oh, yeah,
he does do coaching.
Oh, well, yes, he's certainly coaching, but I mean, how many times have we all looked at those books and read them and had a little tear or whatever and received some inspiration from them? You know, there's many reasons for writing books.
Yep.
And it doesn't, you know, it could be just to expose somebody's ideas or how that people can live a life that is happy without, you know, too much fuss in life or whatever, an example for others to follow or something along that line. For instance, my thought is my sons are both learning disabled and one is 35, and the choices that we had to make in his life, living in Bonnyville, my husband working in Bonnyville, and we coming to the city for him to get special ed education because it wasn't available in those days. And people said to me, you should write a book about that. And I said, yeah, it was a long time ago. He's 35 years old now. Like, who's going to care? And they said, everybody who has to make that choice.
Yeah.
And so my thought was too, that perhaps I would let him read my chapter and see what he thinks of it at this stage, looking back. And that might have some impact on parents, because until you have designation from schools or whatever, then you don't get assistance. So my thought was to encourage those people who think there might be a problem before they get official help and say, you know what, your instincts are good. You're still a good parent and you can move forward and survive it and have a happy, healthy, contributing member of society in your family after it's over. So we'll see.
Yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like the story needs to be told. People will learn from it.
Well, I must say, Fong, I have learned a great deal today, and I really appreciate your encouragement and laying it out the way you have. There's several things I hadn't considered, in trying to put this together. And now I've got a template that I can kind of go on and move forward. Maybe not quite as quickly as you're saying, but I have one or two other things on my plate too. But certainly with giving me some kind of timeline as well. And I so appreciate this.
No problem.
So
So
do
If
I.
I could just add something from Fong, as well as a writing instructor, that taught me that every person has a story that needs to be told, right? And just as Carolyn said, what Fong has provided, I'm very familiar with Fong's coaching and his program and all about the book, and am working on my own. So this is a gift, because to be able to have the outline, that's what a lot of people are, or I used to write and edit while I wrote. And like Fong said, just write, just keep writing, right? Just write, and then edit later, right? Keep the flow going. So I just want to say thank you very much for having me, allowing me to come to the meeting, and thanks, Fong, for the invite.
just a comment on writing ability. A lot of you, I think, will probably have good writing skills. I work with a lot of people who are in Singapore and also in Indonesia, and the very first thing that they're concerned about is their English level. Okay, the thing is, if you write at a grade 5 level, it's actually the perfect level to get people to read the book easy and absorb the information. Once you hit the grade 7, grade 8 level, then you're starting to segregate the type of people who actually read your book, and it limits the amount of audience members that you can get. So don't be too worried about your level of writing. And then what else? Always dig deep when it comes to finding the people that will either buy your book or to do your forward. I have one client who, first of all, said, I don't know anybody, when I asked them to speak to 100 people, or to actually, no, I asked them to speak to 200 people to get a copy of his book. And he goes, but I don't know 200 people. I'm like, I'm sure you know 200 people. He goes, no, I don't. I'm like, wait a minute, you're part of 3 Toastmasters Club. There's 60 people right there. Right? So if you keep on digging, you'll probably find enough people. With the forward, he was also very concerned about that. And I go, if you don't ask, you never know. So what he actually did was he reached out to an author of a book that was also in the same category as what his book was. So everybody who really wanted to learn that subject would read this book. He actually reached out to these authors and asked them to write the forward to his book. Surprisingly, they said yes, wrote the forward, and on top of that, asked if he would be willing to be a guest speaker for their podcast series. Okay, so just reach out. Any other questions? If not, let me show you some of the options that, if you want to work with me directly. So I do host a workshop where it's very, very similar to how I was working with Brittany here. Everybody who shows up to that workshop, I would basically try and hash out their title, their subtitle, their outline, and also their schedule for their books. So whoever shows up will basically, we'll go to each person. I'll ask them the questions, find out what's the best titles for them, and then we kind of open it up for everybody to share, so that there's some collaboration, also some support from everybody else in that group to give some comments and also some ideas as well. So my next one that's coming up is going to be on July 24th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Basically, you'll get a book plan, your book title, your subtitle, your outline. You'll also receive a copy of my most recent book. Usually when I sit down with somebody for an hour, I do charge them about $400 an hour to get that whole plan done, and also to come up with some of their ideas and whatnot. But if you want to sign up for this one, it's going to be $49 for whoever wants to jump into the session. And again, that's going to be on July 24th 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. All right. For those of you who wants to work with me directly and wants to get the books done within your timeline, I usually go, when do you want to get done? I know I share that it could be done in 3 to 4 months. However, that is sometimes overwhelming. So usually they go, you know what? I think I could do 6 months. Then I'll take your 6 months and I'll come up with your entire plan for you. Every step of the way, which dates you have to get what done, which dates you have to start sending your drafts out, and I will hold you accountable every 2 weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks to make sure you get everything done. And if you are struggling with getting content out there, we'll find out different strategies to get that out, and also different strategies to get your book done and completed on time. Right now, a lot of people want to get their books before Christmas. So from now till November, you have about 5-6 months, perfect timing to get your books done and using that book as a free gift or something for your friends and family. So for that, you'll also be able to come to the workshop on the 24th. You'll get another 7 sessions one-on-one with me, where I'm going to hold you accountable every step of the way. You'll receive my book template. So basically that template already has everything in it. You'll have my pre-written foreword, my pre-written dedication, acknowledgements, all that kind of stuff. All you need to do is replace that content with your own, use it as a guide. I could do one of your testimonials or one of your forwards for you. I would do a book promo interview at the end when you have your book in hand. As a video, we could send it out on social media. You have all your milestones. You get to contact me as much as you want within reason. Just don't tell me you're trying to think of a book title at 4 a.m. in the morning. I will get back to you with text message or over the phone, wherever we see fit within reason. Also, we'll come up with some strategies for your podcast and your video content if that's what you so choose. And start positioning all that stuff so that you're not wasting your time and content. Also, if you have a partner, a spouse, or a friend who also wants to write their books at the same time, I'm going to allow that person to jump in on the same sessions as long as they're dedicated to finishing that book at the same timeline as you. And I would actually throw in a free session with them one-on-one so that once the two of you are in that same session together, you're both on the same timeline. But you might be writing different stuff. So that's why I need to have a separate session with them. So normally that I sell for $8,000, but for 3 people here, I do have space for it for $3,000. Okay, so those are my offers for everybody here. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I will also post, I'll post a link to the workshop if you want to sign up there. So that's where you can sign up for the workshop. And yeah, so that is all. If anybody has any questions, I'm open to answering anything within reason.
I'd like to say thanks. This was great listening to you and inspiring. So let's see what happens. So thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
I think I'm gonna have a book in a few months.
Sounds good.
Mine is I freeze myself out with anxiety. So it's written and then it's not good enough and I have to re-edit. So you have some good tips on how to just keep moving forward and keep it contained. So I appreciate that.
I can't tell you how many times I read my first book over and over again to the point I got sick of it. So one thing I would suggest, if you are thinking of doing that, you could consider making an announcement earlier than later and say, hey, I'm going to have a book coming out in 3 months. And I look forward to having you hold me accountable on it, and then post it up on social media.
I do work on accountability. It'll freak me out and there'll be some sleepless nights, but you know, it does work on me. I know that.
Yeah. So one of my clients, what they've been doing is they post a 2-3 minute video every week as a recap of what they've accomplished during that week that progressed them further along to get their books done. Right. So if you're using my schedule and I'm saying you need to have 1 chapter or 2 chapters done a week, then at the end of that week, you basically put out an announcement saying, oh, I just finished my 2 chapters. Tune in next week where I'm going to tell you that I'm going to finish my next 2 chapters. Right. Any other questions? I got about 5 minutes left before I have to head out.
It looks like we're all good, Fong.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for letting me invade your Toastmasters session. I do have one other ask. If you would be so kind to do a video about what you thought about this session, that'd be great. Post it on social media, tag me on it. I highly appreciate that.
Wonderful. I'd like, Wetaskiwin Toastmasters would like to give Fong a great warm applause for a job well done. So knowledgeable and has helped everybody out tonight. Thank you for taking the time to coming to our meeting and this great workshop that you've given us.
Awesome.
Recording will be found on Wetaskiwin Toastmasters YouTube channel.